Alright, today we'll be doing a video on Yuta versus 15 Finger Sukuna. To preface this, we'll be using the Yuta in the current CUlling games, as well as the Sukuna in Shibuya. I'll be doing a collab with Kyle Breeze, so make out to check out his channel. He does a lot of power scaling videos, and I would recommend his Toji versus Maki video. So without further ado, we'll start off with the video, and the way this video will be styled with, we'll first talk about Yuta's points, then Sukuna's points, and then we'll conclude with our overall thoughts. So make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and we'll start off with Yuta. So Yuta at this moment of time is seen to be the second strongest Jujutsu sorcerer currently. He has immeasurable curse energy, which has been to being bottomless, which we have seen from the fight with Ryu and Uro. As well as he has the manifestation of the Queen of Curses through Rika. In the 5 minutes of Rika's full manifestation, he has obviously Rika fully manifested, so she's able to impact the fight herself. He has the ability of a limitless or close to limitless curse energy, as well as his curse technique ability of Mimicry, where he can copy another person's curse technique. This was used, and at this moment of time, using that ability, we'll assume he has Sky Manipulation that he's got from Uru, Shikigami that he got from Juve, as well as Curse Speech that he has got from Unumaki, as well as the potential of Granite Blaster from Ryu. However, that is headcanon and we're not adding that for sure, as well as then Thin Icebreaker, which he got from Uru. He has access to Reverse Curse Technique, and at this moment of time, we can assume he has the highest level. This is shown with him being able to heal other people, which even Gojo Satoru cannot do himself. There's a katana which he's so used to fight with obviously Maki, and he can manifest his steel arm, which is a curse tool that he keeps inside Rika. This was shown in the fight against Ryu and Uro. He also has the ability to use positive cursed output, and that was evident with his usage against Kurorushi, which is super effective against curses. And he has the ability to a domain expansion, which we are currently unaware of.
And of course, there's a lot of evidence to support Yuta scaling directly to 15-fingered Sukuna. So the reason this is that when Yuji transformed into Sukuna, it's evidently so that he kept all of the memories of when Sukuna transformed, from a POV point of view, not even first hand. And after fighting Yuta, he does think that Yuta could beat Sukuna.
And that will be the end of Yuta's abilities. So now this section of the video will be focusing on Sukuna's abilities.
Now 15-fingered Sukuna is no joke. He was able to no-diff Jogo, who, keep in mind, was able to no-diff Nobito, Nanami, and Maki, though of course they were worn out. And this isn't even beside the fact that 15-fingered Sukuna had beat Mahoroga too, which seemed to be a low diff. And then of course Sukuna has his wide array of abilities. So he has his slashing and cleaving techniques, he has complete mastery over reverse curse technique, even more than Gojo Satoru because he's able to heal other people with it. Sukuna is also incredibly durable, being able to not only take on slash attacks from Mahoroga's blade, but he was also able to tank punches from him, which leveled skyscrapers. So his durability is no joke. And of course this doesn't even include the fact that he has a mastered domain expansion, with a deadly sure hit, sure kill technique. And of course this doesn't even get into the fact that he has access to flame abilities. Now we do not know what these abilities are, but they seem to be something that any Jujutsu sorcerer could do, given they had the knowledge and they had the strength. Though they are insanely powerful, remember that these flames overpowered Jogo's flames, Jogo being a flaming magma curse spirit. And this is kind of headcanon-y, but it's possible that he also has access to other elements, such as lightning, ice, which, if you do think he has access to all of these abilities beside flames, then his versatility and abilities skyrocket through the roof.
Also being given the title as King of Curses, he possesses immense levels of curse energy due to his innate power. The only other person who uses both a domain expansion and reverse curse technique is Gojo and obviously Yuta. So his amount of curse energy far surpasses other special grade curse spirits. So in my opinion, I believe Sukuna will win this battle. Why do I think Sukuna will win this battle? I think based on his abilities that he has. So after the usage of Yuta's domain expansion, he couldn't use curse techniques right away, compared to that of Sukuna, assuming that he has even more curse energy than Yuta, we can infer. Regardless of that, I believe Sukuna has too many abilities such as his domain expansion. Application of reverse curse technique seems to be even higher than that of Yuta, who has a very high advanced usage, as well as I think his 1000 years of experience just puts him at a level that I don't believe Yuta will be able to deal with him, especially even with his versatility. And I think a very good point you made with is that even if Sukuna does have obviously fire, water, ice, and all these 4 elemental abilities, it gives him a versatility that even rivals that of Yuta, which is his biggest, strongest point. So what do you think in that regard?
I think even if he just had the flames, I agree with you. I think he would outlast Yuta. The reason I think this is because, as we've seen from Sukuna's fight with Mahoroga, he seems to be more physically durable, as he not only takes slash attacks from his hand, but he takes such powerful punches and he isn't even bleeding, or he isn't even phased from them. Whereas when Yuta takes powerful hits from Ishigori, granted, I do believe Ishigori has a stronger output compared to Mahoroga, Ishigori gets sent flying back and is bleeding profusely, and he needs to use reverse curse technique to heal. But the main point being, Yuta can only be at full power for 5 minutes, whereas if we're assuming, of course, Sukuna is out for an unlimited amount of time, he is just going to outlast Yuta.
Completely agree. So now when we use the main argument for Yuta, they try to use the fact that Itadori gave his POV to assume that he would be relative to 15 Finger Sukuna. However, I think the biggest flaw in that regard is similar to what I had just talked about. We didn't see Sukuna go all out or close to going all out. I understand that's a similar point of view with even Yuta, but we can assume from the fight with Ryu and Uro, he had high difficulty in terms of dealing with them towards the end, in terms of how he ran out of his curse energy and ran out of Rika as well. I'm not necessarily saying that he was in difficulty of dealing with the match, but compared to the feats that we've seen Sukuna use, the level of what 15 Finger Sukuna and 15 Finger Yuta have shown are completely different scales, especially if we can assume that Jogo is a little bit less in terms of power compared to Ryu. So if we're going to infer that this is a similar well in terms of scale, I can infer that Sukuna will have a far easier time with dealing with Yuta, who has his biggest restriction that he can only use Rika for 5 minutes.
The main arguments for saying Yuta might win is, do you think that in the 5 minutes where Yuta has his mimicry, he beats Sukuna? Now, as crazy as that sounds, you have to remember that Yuta has an access to a whole array of abilities. Remember that he has access to Uro's Sky ability, so he could deflect Sukuna's punches. Remember that Rika is able to give him the Curse tool, where he has the gauntlets on his arm, so he might actually be able to go toe-to-toe offensively with Sukuna, as that boosts his abilities. And you also have to remember that it is a 2v1 at the end of the day, so even if Sukuna scales above Yuta, he does have the help of Rika. So of course, it's only for 5 minutes, which, as we've both discussed earlier, Sukuna has far more durability, but he has far more endurance, since he can just outlast Yuta because he has more stamina. One more point for Yuta, though this is kind of headcanony, is that we don't know what his domain expansion does. If it happens to be the case where Yuta has a sure kill, sure hit domain expansion, then unfortunately this argument is null. However, if Yuta has a sure hit, however harmless, domain expansion, then his domain's ability should still work in a tug of war, or within Sukuna's own domain expansion, as we've seen with Megumi vs Reggie and Hakari vs Kashimo. Since the sure hit is harmless, it can even bypass simple domains. So, for example, if Yuta were to have a domain expansion that allows him to either bring out 2 Rikas, or maybe even have Rika manifested fully for an unlimited amount of time, then in a tug of war, this would greatly benefit Yuta. However, of course, this is just assuming Yuta's domain expansion is not a sure hit and sure kill, because since it's more likely it's sure kill, since only the highest level of sorcerers have that, and Yuta is that high of a level of a sorcerer. So even with all these points for Yuta, I still agree with Blaziken, to be honest.
And to build off that, yeah, I agree. I think Yuta obviously has the immense curse energy. Now, of Jujutsu sorcerers, it seems to be the most. He also has the most feats out of any other Jujutsu sorcerer that we've seen currently not named Gojo. So in terms of anyone to actually deal with Sukuna, it's probably him. Like you said, with Rika being a 2v1, it gives him a whole new advantage in terms of dealing with the curse user. However, one of his big positives in terms of his fight against the Sendai colony was he could use reverse curse technique as a positive output to affect other people. However, compared to Sukuna, this won't have the said effect, and as well as this could be a detriment to Yuta as well, because now he has the ability with Rika, and we can assume with Sukuna's level of adept in Jujutsu sorcery, he could use the same positive curse output on Rika as well to then keep it a 1v1 fight and deal without Rika in that regard. The fight as a 1v1 would then put Yuta in the biggest disadvantage. I believe once the fight becomes 1v1, it negates some of the biggest assets that Yuta has. He will now not be able to maximize the utility of Rika. Now he loses the fact that the conditions met with restoring his curse energy. It means that that period of Yuta would be the final, and in my opinion, it would lead to the conclusion of Sukuna winning, with Yuta barely escaping alive and then fleeing from the battle. I don't believe he kills Yuta. However, I do believe there is, at this moment of time, if they were to fight 100 times, Sukuna wins 75% of the time.
I really don't mean to dunk on Yuta too much, but I just agree with everything Blaziken says. Actually, I'm a big fan of Yuta, and I do think he's strong enough to maybe even overpower Sukuna for the 5 minutes where Rika's fully manifested. But the issue is, Sukuna has just been shown to be so unbelievably durable and to have so much endurance and stamina that even if you think Yuta's stronger than Sukuna 15 Fingers, he's not going to be strong enough to end the fight in 5 minutes.
And another point to even boost that was, in the fight against Muhuraga, Sukuna, that if Megumi had summoned Muhuraga with 3 Finger Sukuna, he might have had an issue. The fact that he chose to say might instead of he would indicates that Sukuna may have more abilities that can even negate the difference in power that his fingers have.
And as unfortunate as this is, because full-powered Yuta would be a great matchup for Sukuna, he's not as durable as Sukuna. Hits from Sukuna, especially his curse technique, would make him use his reverse curse technique too much. So overall, I agree with Blaziken. I just think Sukuna outlasts Yuta.
To pick up from what you said, I completely agreed. I think at this moment of time, there is nothing to suggest from the feats we've seen from Yuta for him to beat 15 Finger Sukuna. If you disagree, obviously drop the comment down below and let us know your opinions why you think Yuta would beat 15 Finger Sukuna. But at this moment of time, this is what we've concluded with all the evidence that we've seen from Jujutsu Kaisen. But thank you guys for watching. Make sure to obviously like, comment, share, subscribe. Make sure to check out Kaio's video as well. Does great content as well. And thank you guys for watching.
Yuji snap Yuta's sword, Sukuna's bare hands are going to rip it apart.
Preach! Alright.